Bring in now Democratic Senator Patty Murray from Washington State. She serves on the Senate Budget and Appropriations Committees. Senator, I had your colleague, Senator Warren, on here yesterday, and she was among those saying that this shutdown is not likely to end until the president tells Republicans what they can and can't negotiate. But it was clear yesterday that Trump is not yet interested in talks on health care until after the government reopens. So where does that leave us?
Well, it leaves us with a president who's turning a very callous and horrible ear to people across this country. I opened up the newspaper from my hometown, Seattle, Washington, this morning, their newspaper, headline of a couple who just looked at their ACA exchange today where it opened, and their insurance is going from $1,100 a month to $2,100 a month. This is real. Millions of families are going to be doing this over the next several weeks, and they are looking to Congress to extend those tax credits so they can take care of their family's health. And for the president not to know this or to not be disinterested in it shows that he's more focused on sending money to Argentina and building this huge new ballroom in the White House. That doesn't fly with the American public.
I think Americans are looking at Washington right now like, is there any hope for these guys to work together? What would you tell those people looking at Washington, seeing this stalemate that nobody's moving? And is there any reason for them to hope for bipartisanship to prevail here?
Allie, I think one of the things that frustrates me, and I've been here a long time, I've worked on a lot of bipartisan deals. I have worked with Republicans and Democrats to find solutions to tough problems. The challenge now is Republicans are simply saying, I can't work with you because the president will turn around and tweet at me and it won't work. So they're waiting for the president to take action. And this country is. And so are people across the country. So he needs to wake up and have his advisors do better than just tell him, build that ballroom and you'll be fine. That's not going to fly.
We talk about the impact that Trump has when it comes to potentially ending the shutdown. But the other thing that I know you are working tirelessly on is the idea of appropriations, those multiple bills that have to be brokered, then passed through your chamber, the House, and then, of course, sent to the president's desk. Do you think there's any hope for the appropriations process to be normal right now, given how abnormal this shutdown and the dynamics around it are?
Yeah. I honestly, nothing is normal here in Congress right now. I want to make sure that we do have our constitutional ability as elected members from across the country to write our spending bills. Do I have confidence that the president is going to follow those? No. He has shown for 8 months that he doesn't care whether or not we tell him how to spend money, which is what our responsibility is. But I am hopeful that we can get to our appropriation bills and write them and have our input. It will take Republican members of Congress to turn to the president and say, do not undo this with some sequestration or some other way of spending money that is not legal for us to have that trust again. So I'm calling on my Republican counterparts. Tell the president, you stand by your own constituents in your state and your own responsibilities, and don't keep doing this to us and the country.
You know, the longer this shutdown goes, the worse the impact actually gets. We're talking more missed paychecks, more people looking for lifelines like food banks. Those are already seeing increased demand, but it's likely to just get worse in the coming weeks because the Agriculture Secretary actually warned states in a letter recently, according to the New York Times, that the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, is likely to run out of money in about 2 weeks. I mean, you've talked about what that program meant to you and your family as a kid. What do you say to people that are feeling this pain now and knowing it might get worse?
Yeah. Allie, I am so worried about people who are not getting paid. I'm worried about the SNAP benefits. I'm worried about the fact that this administration said we're going to fire everybody who helps our students with disabilities or makes sure that we deal with the fentanyl crisis, or fires thousands of people at the CDC who are making sure that you are protected when you buy something at the grocery store. It is an unprecedented time. And we are working extremely hard here in the United States Senate as Democrats to tell our Republican colleagues and this president, work with us, come to the table. I have never in my entire career seen a president who won't even talk or work with Democrats in order to get something solved. That is unprecedented.
Yeah, and we are looking at some Republican senators potentially floating the idea of trying to prevent SNAP benefits from lapsing. At a certain point, it becomes legislating around the edges of a problem that could just be fixed centrally. But I think we'll keep tracking that. You know, the other thing I want to get you on as we continue looking at the shutdown is the other headlines that we are tracking here, including a New York Times report that the president is seeking $230 million in damages from the Justice Department for past cases brought against him. What questions do you have about that? And is there anything that the Senate can do? I know that the majority runs the place. That's kind of how Congress works.
Well, again, unprecedented that a president would ask DOJ to give him well over $200 million as some kind of payback. That is not how it works. My constituents in Washington State don't need their taxpayer dollars going to this president right now. What they need is this president to come to the table and make sure that their health insurance premium doesn't double or triple. That's what they need.
That's what they need. And yet, in other administration news, we've also heard Paul Ingrassia, who's the president's pick for a top government watchdog position, withdrew his nomination yesterday. It came after he allegedly sent text messages that he had, in his words, a Nazi streak, among other racist and anti-Semitic remarks. What was your reaction to the fact that that was pulled? There have been multiple controversial nominees put before the Senate, but it seems there was a line drawn here, probably rightly so.
Well, it was rightly pulled. Someone with a Nazi streak should not be in the federal government. He shouldn't just withdraw that nomination. He should be fired from this administration.
Senator Patty Murray, I thank you for coming on with us, sharing your perspective, and we'll see if the appropriations ever go back to being normally done. I know you're in charge of that process. We catch up with you a lot, so please keep us posted.
Thanks, Allie.
And straight ahead.